Hi, Jamie.
It is so nice to speak with you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
doing
much
it.
for having me. I know you guys have done so many wonderful things with us and trying to explain the policy and the importance of all the work that we're doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And this is something we know that all of these issues are important to parents and mothers, and we just want to break them down to make sure that
Yeah,
families understand what's happening. So
absolutely.
we do want to talk about the Build Back Better agenda and the excuse me, the Build Back Better agenda. So there's a lot in it, right? There is access to free universal pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds. There's 2 years of free community college for adults. There's increasing the Pell Grant awards, which are so important,
Yes.
helping adults get higher degrees. There's investments in teacher education and preparation. But what we really want to talk about today are the issues that we know are near and dear to the motherly audience hearts, which are paid family leave in America
Yep.
and access to affordable childcare and universal pre-K. So can we start there?
Absolutely. Let's go for it. Let's
All
go
right.
for it. And hi, motherly audience. Good to see you all today. Thanks for joining.
All right, so let's begin with the proposal for paid family leave. We know that moms want this. At Motherly, we do a survey every year called the State of Motherhood Survey. It's how we find out which issues are affecting parenthood and mothers in America. And we found that the number one biggest political issue for mothers in America right now is paid family leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
We found that 92% of mothers say that they support legislative action for paid family leave and the expansion of affordable childcare. 93% of mothers said that they know that employers could help them return to work if they offered longer paid leave. So can you tell us what's in this program? How many weeks are being proposed? Would mothers be able to, and or fathers, be able to collect their full paycheck during this time?
So thank you so much for that question. Again, this is a great opportunity to talk about these key important elements and issues that are so important to parents, clearly moms as well, but parents as a whole, because you just also mentioned fathers, which is clearly important. I just want to say one quick thing before I get into the paid leave is Build Back Better. We actually just celebrated a year ago, the president, when he was then candidate, talked about the Build Back Better
Yeah.
program plan, which was, as you know, so critical because what it does, it really invests in people, right? Invest in like the human infrastructure, as he likes to call it, which is so important and so critical because yes, we need to invest in the roads and our infrastructure, on our traditional infrastructure, but we have to invest in us, in our people, to make sure that they have what they need, you know, to just to survive sometimes, and to have to make their lives better, and to have an economy that works for everyone. And so as you're talking about paid leave, it's so important and it's so critical right now as we have dealt with this pandemic. We've seen a lot of moms leave the workforce. Millions of women in general leave the workforce because they needed to take care of a sick, whether it's an elderly parent or their own child, and so they weren't able to take that time off and lost their job. So the president understands that. He was once a single dad, had
Yep.
two boys, young boys, to raise. They had lost their mom, they had lost their sister, and so he understands what it means to have the child care, to have the paid and medical paid leave and medical leave, so that you can take that 12 weeks is what we're talking about off, so that you have that time to really make sure that your loved one is well taken care of, or your loved one is getting the need that the care that they need. And also just for yourself, if you need to take that time off because you're dealing with whatever's going on in your life as well. And so it is so critical. It is so important. We saw, like I said, this past year what people had to deal with and lost their jobs because they didn't have that. So we're talking about 12 weeks. We're talking about what the way, because it's a federal, this is a federal program, so you have to apply for it through the
Sure.
federal government. And so what will happen is once you apply for it and you're approved for it, then you get that funding, that monies that you were needed during that time that you had to take off of work. And there's no punishment for doing it. It protects you from that, which is so critical, because
Sure.
people don't want to lose their jobs, right? So that's right. That's the whole point. That's how people have lost their jobs. And so, like I said, federal program, the federal, it pays for that time that you have taken off. You have to apply for it, get approved for it, and it protects you from any punishment that people are worried about getting. And so it really is a lifeline, if you will. A lot of these components in the Build Back Better, as we look at the human aspect of it, the human infrastructure, if you will, as I was saying, as the president likes to say, is really that lifeline that folks really need just to survive and to be put in a better position for us to compete. We're also talking about how do we as a country compete in the 21st century and win and be leaders again. And that is, a lot of it is investing in our country, in our infrastructure, the traditional infrastructure, but also in the American people.
And so much of this plan invests in children.
Yeah.
It also calls for free universal pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds. So our State of Motherhood survey found that 73% of moms say they support paid family leave. 74% of moms said that they support free universal childcare. And this would be a huge boon, not just childcare, but also education. So why was this so important to the administration to work in, and how would it work?
So Jamie, it's so great because, like you said, it's popular, and we always say this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is about the American people, right?
Absolutely.
This is what you just talked about, is popular across the board. And again, another lifeline for parents who, many of them, again, left the workforce this past year because they didn't have childcare. They weren't able to really be able to have that tax credit, right? We have to give tax cuts to the American families, to middle class, working class families who really truly need it. And this is what this is: being able for families to be able to afford to send their kids to child care, being able to have that universal pre-K, which is so critical, which is successful. That's the thing. Again, if we want to compete globally, we have to make sure we invest in our children, we invest in our teachers, right? We invest in people who have been left behind. So the child care, there's a child care tax credit in the American Rescue Plan that the president signed a couple of months ago into law, which was a plan that really met the moment that we were dealing with the economy crisis, with COVID pandemic, making sure we were getting those shots in arms. That was an opportunity to just deal with that moment, meet that moment, and he extended the child care tax credit. This plan in the Build Back Better, the American Families Plan, it makes it more permanent, so that it really helps families, low-income families, working families. And so the idea is they're not spending more than 7% of their annual income on making sure that they're getting that child care for their kids, making sure that it is affordable, making sure that they're getting the child care, whatever they decide, because it's actually quite flexible on what parents want to do,
Sure.
whether it's like how you want to use the monies that you're getting that child tax credit. And so it's just super important and critical. Again, the president was a single dad. He understands what all of this means, and it is another lifeline for women. We have a lot of women are single, or the head of the household.
Oh, absolutely.
Single moms. So stuff like this really works. We lost, like I said, millions of women left the workforce this past year, and a lot of it was because they didn't have the child care that they needed. And so, and also in the American Rescue Plan, there was a child care providers, so helping the providers. This now helps the parents and the families.
So we recently reported on a study that estimated that over 600,000 women had to leave their jobs in the last year because child care providers closed at the start of the pandemic.
Yep.
So now you mentioned the flexibility. So this plan calls for free universal pre-K, but it also calls for making childcare in general more affordable.
That's exactly right.
Pay scale that you mentioned.
Yep.
So under the Build Back Better agenda, there's a proposal for a sliding pay scale, so that way parents won't end up spending the bulk of their income on keeping their children safe.
Right. And that's
A little bit more
exactly.
about that, because I know that our parents want to learn more about that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think that, look, we're talking about all children, but in order
Right.
to, in order to really make sure it's all children so that low income and working parents can compete with higher income kids, is
Right.
to offer them this ability, that child tax credit, it's about 8,000 up to $8,000 in child tax credit. That when you look at the American Families Plan. And so it's incredibly, it's so important to have that. And so, and we make it flexible so
Right.
parents can make the choice that fits the best for them, for their families, and
Whether it's
everybody.
daycare or Head Start or
Exactly. Whether it's
K.
daycare, Head Start, universal pre-K,
Sure.
whatever is the most important and critical for that family, because every family is different.
Right.
And so, yeah. And one of the things that we've seen talking about studies is, if you do, and I think you just mentioned the universal pre-K, if we invested in this way, then our kids are more likely to succeed. Our kids are more likely to be competitive when they become adults and get those important critical jobs that they need to really succeed. And so that's how the president sees this, and that's why we have it in the Build Back Better plan. Because really, we're not just building back, we're building back better. We cannot go back
Sure.
to the way that we were before the pandemic era.
So there is also a call for 2 free years of community college.
Yes.
So that will help students test the waters for
Yeah.
classes and higher education without incurring a bulk of debt.
Yeah.
Is it open for any adult? Would a mother who entered the workforce right away after high school and then went on to have kids, who's ready in her 30s or 40s or 50s to go back to school, would anyone be able to take advantage of that?
Yes, anyone would be able to take advantage of it. Here's the beauty of this, right? When you think about, again, the Build Back Better plan, it invests in education, it invests in healthcare. Those are the two things that we've just talked about. It invests in teachers, right? Making sure teachers are continuing to build themselves and improve their practices. And now we're looking at community college. First 2 years are, the way this plan looks, it's to be free. That's what the president wanted, because we know that, and we've seen this in studies, if you're able to, like, community college is kind of a pathway to a 4-year degree. And so if you give people that opportunity to be able to go to college for free, it gives them that opportunity to get that college degree. And so we want to offer that. And that's what the president was thinking about, because if we invest in education, then again, we'll be competitive, and we will have really good critical thinkers, and give out people opportunity to get the jobs that they need to survive and to really thrive.
And we talk a lot about how this agenda, it invests in children and families. It does seem to also benefit women in particular. A lot of the policies seem like they would help women workers get back into the workforce and stay in the workforce. Can you speak to why that is so important?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And one thing I forgot to add is, like, Dr. Biden, our first lady, she, she teaches at a community college. She understands what this means. So he's, as you can imagine, the president is very much influenced in such an amazing way by the first lady. And just wanted to add one more thing is, he recently went to Illinois. He visited a community college, and that community college, Jamie, had this amazing workforce program. As you're asking me, how do people stay into the workforce? Like, how do they get that job training that's so critical so people can continue and excel in the, in that career that they're in? And it also had a childcare component, so people can go to work, drop off their kids, and not go to work, sorry, go to school and drop off their kid, and they know that their kid is being taken care of while they're going to school. So that's another part of the Build Back Better plan, that it offers up businesses, hey, if you build or create a childcare program, we will give you an incentive to do that. So that's all connected. And so having that workforce program, being for people to be able to get that certificate, get that additional job training, that keeps them in the workforce and helps them grow. And it's also connected with teachers, right? We want to make sure teachers have everything that they need like I said, to grow their practice, to improve themselves. Because if we have talented teachers who are getting that certificate and learning, then that helps, it trickles down to our kids, which is so important and so critical as well.
So now, what do you want mothers and parents to know about the Build Back Better agenda? What do you hope people take away from this conversation today?
I want people to know that the President of the United States, President Biden, understands what it's like to be a single dad, to have two kids that you are trying to figure out how to raise, how to give them the best education, and make sure you're there for them if they're sick. And so this is what the Build Back Better plan offers. It offers people multiple lifelines, multiple opportunities to improve their lives. And so we want to make sure, the president wants to make sure we don't leave anybody behind, because for too long we see people being left behind. And so we don't want that to happen. And so that's kind of the plan as well. And we also want to be competitive, right? There's a global competition that we think about too, right? In the 21st century, and to be leaders. And so right now we're behind. We're behind when you look at other countries. And so that's why paid leave is so important. And
especially
he understands
on paid leave.
that.
We're the only industrialized nation that doesn't have it.
Exactly. And the funny thing about it, Jamie, like when we decided before our time to have 12 years of free public education, we were the leaders in that, to offer 12 years of free public education. And now we have to take it to the next level. That's why we have the 2-year community college. That's why we want to make sure we have a universal pre-K. So we want people to know that this is a president, this is an administration that has the back of the American people, that wants to make sure that we do not leave anybody behind. And we understand what families have been going through. We understand what mothers, women have been going through this past year. And so we want to help and invest in long-term investments for everybody, for people.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us to talk about these important issues that
absolutely
impact.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, the Principal Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us.
Bye, everybody.